My girlfriend invited her ex-boyfriend to my apartment, and I am beyond furious right now. I live in a large city and have my own place. My girlfriend, Jessica, lives with a few roommates, but if I am being honest, she is here with me almost 80% of the time. Earlier today, while I was working out at the gym with my buddy Ryan, she sent me a text saying she had an old friend she had not seen in a while who was visiting the city. She mentioned that it would be nice to have a quiet place to catch up. I told her they could use my apartment and that I would head out for dinner with Ryan so they could have some time to talk. At the time, I was mid-workout and in a rush, so I did not ask her who this friend was or think to clarify further. Looking back now, I absolutely should have, because her so-called old friend turned out to be her ex-boyfriend, Matt. About 30 minutes after we exchanged those messages, Jessica texted me again, letting me know they were at my apartment. I casually replied alright, and continued my workout with Ryan. We finished around 7 p.m. and decided to grab some food at Whole Foods since their salad and hot food bar always hits the spot. We ate there and wrapped up around 8:30 p.m. Heading back home, I was not expecting much. I figured I would walk in, say a quick hello, and crash in bed. It had been an exhausting day, and I was ready to call it a night. I got home at around 9 p.m., not knowing if Jessica's friend was still there. To be honest, I hoped they were not because I was not in the mood to make small talk, but I told myself I would deal with it if they were. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw a pair of large Timberland boots by the door, clearly a man's. My first thought was that her friend had brought her boyfriend along, so I braced myself for some unexpected socializing. I kicked off my shoes, hung up my jacket, and walked down the hallway into the living room. There she was, sitting on the couch with a man, both on opposite ends, talking. When Jessica noticed me, she jumped slightly. At the time, I did not think much of it, but now it makes a lot more sense. Still clueless, I said hello and started walking toward the guy. I glanced around the room, assuming her friend might have stepped out to use the bathroom or something. I reached out to shake his hand, introducing myself casually, "Hey, I'm Jessica's boyfriend." With an air of arrogance, he replied, "I am Matt, Jessica's ex." I froze for a moment, caught off guard. Then I said, "Oh, my bad. I thought you were her friend's boyfriend." The room fell into an awkward silence as it began to dawn on me. My girlfriend had been alone with her ex in my apartment for hours. I looked at Jessica and asked, "So, this is your old friend?" In a small voice, she muttered, "Yeah." Trying not to jump to conclusions, I reminded myself how tired I was and that I did not want to overthink it. Still, I could not shake the feeling of irritation that she had been casually hanging out with her ex in my space. The room went silent again, and neither of them seemed eager to continue their conversation from earlier. Jessica broke the silence, asking how my day had been. "It was fine, I guess," I replied, but the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. At that point, I had had enough. After a brief pause, I turned to Matt and said, "Hey, do you mind wrapping this up for today? I need to talk to Jessica about a few things." He smirked and said, "She invited me over, and we are just reminiscing about old times." I looked at Jessica, who avoided making eye contact. Then I turned back to him and said firmly, "Let me rephrase. This is my apartment, and I am asking you to leave." Matt turned to Jessica and asked, "Do you want me to leave?" That was the breaking point. I lost my composure and snapped, "What the hell do you mean by that? I do not care if she wants you to leave or not. I am telling you to get out of my house." Jessica tried to calm me down, but she eventually told him it was time to go. Matt grabbed his stuff and headed for the door, with me following closely to make sure he left. When I came back, Jessica was furious. She said I embarrassed her. "I embarrassed you?" I asked, completely stunned. She went on about how my reaction was over the top and uncalled for, saying she had told me he was coming over. "No, Jessica," I replied, "you said a friend was coming over." "A friend? Not once did you mention this friend was a guy, much less your ex." She called me an ass and said I had overreacted. I shot back, "You were hanging out with your ex in my apartment. Do you not realize how disrespectful that is?" When I asked why they were meeting in the first place, she explained that he was going through a rough time and needed someone to talk to. She said she wanted to be there for him because he is a good person, and by meeting in my apartment, it showed there was nothing shady going on. That makes no sense, I said. If my ex had problems and I was comforting her, you would lose it. Jessica said, no, I would understand because I have empathy. I fired back, that is ridiculous. You got mad at me at the gym because I smiled when a girl complimented my form while lifting. At that point, she said she was done talking and stormed out of the apartment. I did not stop her or reach out. I just sat there, trying to process what had just happened. Later, I called my dad for advice. I am still extremely angry, so I know I should not be talking to her right now. It is about 3 in the morning. Honestly, I am just so tired that I cannot even tell if I am angry anymore. Now, it is around 7 in the evening as I write this, and to say the last 13 hours have been exhausting would be a serious understatement. When I woke up this morning, my phone was blowing up with notifications from Reddit. I was sitting there, thinking, what in the world was I doing last night? Why did I decide to share all this personal stuff in a Reddit post? As I started scrolling through the comments, I was completely floored. To my surprise, almost every single comment was taking my side. I kept looking, hoping to see just one person defending her, but it never came. What really stood out to me were the number of women saying they would never treat their boyfriend the way she treated me. They called it disrespectful, and honestly, their comments hit me the hardest because they echoed exactly what I had been feeling. Last night was absolute chaos. I could not believe what had happened. Since I live alone, there was no one around to talk to about it. So, I called the one person who has always had my back, my dad. After reading your messages and comments, I decided I should go into detail about what that phone call with my dad was like. But first, let me backtrack to when everything originally went down so it all makes sense. Jessica had stormed out of my apartment after I told her she was being disrespectful. She had tried to justify hanging out with her ex, Matt, in my home, and I had called her out on it. At that point, I was so furious that I did not call her, text her, or follow her out the door. I just sat on the couch, stunned and trying to process what had just happened. I attempted to calm myself with breathing exercises, but it was no use. I kept replaying the moment when Matt turned to Jessica and asked, "Do you want me to leave?" That question felt like a slap in the face, and it sent me into a spiral of rage. I kept telling myself, it is not worth it. Just let it go. It is not worth it. But deep down, all I wanted to do was find Matt and beat him senseless. Every attempt I made to calm myself down just kept failing. Finally, I threw my hands up and said, "Forget it," and grabbed my phone. "Siri, call Dad." I honestly had no clue what I was going to say. All I knew was that if there was one person who could help me through this, it was my father. Phone call. The line rang, and my dad picked up with his usual enthusiasm. "Did you see the game? Victor Oladipo dropped 43 points on them." I chuckled a little and said, "Dad, it is not about the game. I just got into a huge fight with Jessica, and I am absolutely livid. Dad, I am so angry right now, and I do not want to do anything stupid." He immediately switched gears. Whoa, hold on. Where are you right now? Are you with her? Is everything okay? I sighed. "Dad, I am at my apartment," and she stormed out. "Yeah, I am okay physically, but I have no idea what to do." There was a long pause, and then I heard him take a deep breath. "All right, son. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." I gave him the full rundown of what had happened, the same way I told you all in my earlier post. The entire time, my dad stayed completely silent. He let me talk until I had nothing left to say. When I finished, the first thing he asked was, "What does Matt look like?" I will admit, his question caught me off guard. "Why does that even matter, Dad?" "I do not know. He is a white guy with long curly hair." "Why?" My dad laughed and said, No. I mean, how tall is he?" I rolled my eyes and said, "I do not know, Dad. Probably about 5'9" at most." He chuckled again and said, "That explains the Timberlands. The male equivalent of high heels." That made me laugh for the first time all night. My dad has a way of diffusing my anger by making me laugh, and it worked like a charm. "You are right, Dad." "You are right," I said, laughing. Then he asked, "How much do you think he weighs?" I thought about it for a moment and replied, "Maybe 150 pounds, if that." He shifted the conversation back to the argument. "So, you said Jessica only told Matt to leave after you started getting mad, right?" "Yeah," I replied. There was another long pause before my dad let out another deep breath. "Son, let me tell you something. This situation is a lot deeper than it looks. The fact that she only told him to leave after you got visibly upset says a lot. You are 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, and this guy disrespected you in your own home. A woman who cares about you would never put you in harm's way. She knew what could have happened if things escalated further, and instead of taking your side, she chose to shift all the blame onto you. Let me ask you something, son. Where do you think she went after she left your apartment?" I stayed silent. I knew what he was implying, and it hurt. "Listen," he said. "I know it is hard, but do not do anything irrational. She made her decision, and now you need to make yours. You are 22 years old, living on your own, and doing well for yourself. That is something to be proud of. Do not let this situation derail you." I did not say a word. I already knew what my dad was implying. "I know this hurts, son, but I need you to promise me something. You will not do anything irrational. She made her decision, and there is nothing you can do to change it. You have always been one of a kind. Do not lose yourself over something that will just be a small bump in the road of your life. Let me tell you this, I could not be prouder of you. You are only 22 years old, living independently in this city, and you have your life together. That is rare, my name. You are rare. The right woman, like your mom was for me, will come into your life when you least expect it. Do not waste your energy on someone who cannot see what you are worth. Everything happens for a reason." There was a brief pause before I managed to reply, "Thank you, Dad. I really needed to hear that." He let out a warm laugh and said, "Of course, your mom and I are always here for you." End call. Fast forward to this morning, I had barely slept the night before. My mind was racing, and I was emotionally drained. Jessica had been calling and texting me nonstop, begging for forgiveness and apologizing profusely. By 11 a.m., I was completely over the situation. I still had not responded to her since she stormed out the previous night. In my mind, her actions spoke louder than her words ever could. She had made her choice, and I had made mine. Still, I could not let this situation continue to dominate my week. I had too much going on to let it distract me any further. I ate a quick meal and decided to clear my head by going to the apartment gym. On cardio days, I like using the gym here, it is therapeutic. I ran until I felt like I had burned off some of the frustration. Around 1 p.m., my phone rang. And yes, it was Jessica. A big part of me did not want to answer. After all, we had been together for 2.5 years, and I felt like I owed it to her to at least hear her out. I reluctantly picked up. "What is up?" I said flatly. She immediately burst into tears. "I am so sorry, my name. I love you so much. Please, just talk to me. I should not have left last night." I panicked. "You know I love you more than anything." I stayed silent. "My name, please, I am begging you. This is not right. Please talk to me. I told you the truth, nothing happened. I will never talk to him again. Please, let us talk." In that moment, I realized something. I was not angry anymore. I was not sad either. All I felt was indifference. After a brief pause, I replied, "Can you come over at 3? Still crying, she said, Yes, I will be there." "Okay," I said before hanging up. Now I am sitting on the sofa, scrolling through the comments on my last Reddit post, waiting for 3 o'clock to roll around. Knock, knock. I heard the sound coming from the hallway. Jessica stepped into the apartment, her face wet with tears, trying to smile as she wiped them away. But I could not feel anything. That was when it hit me. The woman I had been so deeply in love with just 24 hours earlier was now standing in front of me, and I felt nothing. "Jessica," I said, "it is over between us." Her face froze, and she barely managed to choke out, "What?" through her tears. "It is over," I repeated. "My name, no, no, no. Please, I am sorry. Do not end this between us. I love you. I love you so much," she said, practically pleading. Hearing her say those words stung, but I stood firm. "Jessica, I am sorry, but I cannot do this anymore. I do not know what impression I gave you during our relationship, but I will not stay with someone who thinks so little of me. The moment you invited your ex into my apartment behind my back, you made the decision for us. At that moment, the floodgates opened. No man is that cocky for no reason, Jessica. I am not stupid. You gave him some kind of reassurance that made him feel confident enough to act like that. And when he disrespected me, you did not stand up for me. Why would I stay with someone who does not have my back?" By now, Jessica was sobbing uncontrollably. She said, "I am sorry, my name. I love you. I really do. Please, give me another chance." But I had made up my mind. Sitting there in silence, I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on me. The lyrics of one of my favorite songs ran through my head. I'd rather have loyalty than love, 'cause love really does not mean much. See, love is just a feeling. You can love somebody and still stab them in their back. It does not take much to love, you can love somebody just by being attached. See, loyalty is an action, you can hate or love me and still have my back. 21 Savage. Those words kept looping in my head. To some people, it might sound like she said all the right things, but to me, her actions had already spoken volumes. I understood then and there that this was what was best for me. A relationship cannot survive without trust or loyalty, and she had lost both. Through her tears, she asked me again to reconsider. I looked at her and said, "Jessica, please, it is over. There is nothing left to save." She protested again, but I interrupted her. "Please, Jessica. Let us not drag this out. Pack your things and go." Jessica quietly started gathering her belongings. I handed her a garbage bag to help. She left her keys on the table and walked out the door. It was over. It is 7:35 p.m. as I write this. I am emotionally drained, and the weight of everything that has happened over the past 24 hours feels surreal. To anyone who read this all the way through, thank you. To everyone who commented on my previous post, thank you for your words. I really needed that support. This has been one of the toughest days of my life, but I know I made the right decision.